Any object, system, or organism is defined by its purpose. If paper or parchment is bound together and protected by a cover, it is to a large extent still considered just a codex. It's the addition of information in the form of writings and images that, once done, completes the definition of this object as a book. This is the logic behind the strategy of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, which shifts the paradigm of its interventions in Nigeria's universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education from physical infrastructure to content. On this edition of the program, we focus on TETFund's Department of Education Support Services, which was created to coordinate, manage, and implement academic, content-based intervention programs of the Fund for public tertiary institutions in the country. The Executive Secretary of TETFund, Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, sets the tone for how this department is key to his research and development agenda.
We have some iconic libraries out there. Physical, yes, but anybody that engages in research and readership goes into a library. You know that increasingly the hard book components are more of what you would want to see as those things that very soon may be reference sections. That what you're likely to see are the software application section, the virtual section, both the hard and software facilities, but the software now that are relevant for documentation, inventorization, and accessing. Those are the in things, so that you go, what you are looking for are those, the computer facilities, people going with their laptops, connecting there. Of course, the desktops are there for many purposes, depending on which section of the library you go, and that is it. So we are very conscious about, you cannot undertake research without accessing established research outcomes across the world. It's the libraries that provide you, because the inventorization is housed there. So that is one aspect. But fundamentally, something that precedes all that is research. It is research. Like I would always say, for too long, the Nigerian university system, our tertiary institution, have emphasized more, that's including the polytechnics and the colleges of education, have emphasized more teaching than research. Well, they are supposed to be complementary, but it was actually wrong. Teaching does not improve research necessarily, but you would agree with me that research is obligatory facilitation for the quality of teaching. So that is why we're deliberately focusing on research now. And take it or leave it. The ranking of the topmost, the Ivy Leagues of this world, universities. Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard, Yale. You can go on and on. I tell you, it has to do with the quality of research, particularly the faculty. You have to look at the quality of faculty. Those research equipment will be derelict if you don't have personnel that have capacity to operate them. From the professors, to the laboratory scientists, to the biometric engineers, depending on which area of discipline. That's why the terminologies are separate. You need them. The faculty is key. If you don't have, in many universities of today, they want to have a topmost world-rated professor is sought for to just come to a university for 1 week. He goes into a classroom with some student that have seen that person's publication, outcome of publications, and believe me, they will never be the same again. You agree with me? It is those category of professors that award themselves that will define the facilities required for research. And if those research facilities are brought in, whether it's geophysical laboratory, chemistry, any of the biological, basic or applied, medicine, call it, the physical, this thing, whether it's engineering or any form of technology, ICT now, one aspect of technology that has just changed the world. You know, you have to make sure that the facilities are there. But very important, the personnel. That is why TETFund intervention, besides the research component, which we are supporting, we have the academic staff training and development intervention. Largely, until recently, or almost exclusively until last year, when we now introduced postdoc. And of course, there has been bench work anyway. It's been largely PhD masters, both overseas and local. The point was simple. 8-9 years ago, only 40% of Nigerian university lecturers had PhD. But as I talk to you now, the percentage we're waiting to get NUC confirmation is in the region of 70 to 80%. A university like Ibadan, for instance, it is about 100%.
The department is charged with the responsibility of implementing non-infrastructural special interventions of the fund, such as the National Research Fund and the Higher Education Book Development Fund, which were established by the Board of Trustees of the fund to address peculiar national challenges in the areas of research, paucity of academic textbooks, reading materials, and the ugly trend of boy-child dropout from schools. Okunlola Sukanmi is saddled with the responsibility of driving this component of the TETFund paradigm shift, and he candidly gives an overview of the department he heads.
Education Support Services Department is one of the content-based departments in Tertiary Education Trust Fund. Content-based in the sense that we address basically the need of faculties in tertiary institutions. That is the development of instructional materials and the people, the capacity in the universities in terms of capacity development of the lecturers in the tertiary institution. So basically the content-based department are into those items that are not actually infrastructural. In the department, for instance, we have library development intervention, which addresses the issue of provision of books, both the hard and the digital books into the library, and the equipment needed to complement those items. Then we have the AMB, which is academic manuscript into books. That is a transformation of manuscript and what we call in those days handout to textbook. You know, in those days, if you recall, we have a situation where our lecturers prepare what they call handouts. And we strive and buy those things then to read and prepare for exam. But because the fund look at it that this handout could be a useful instrument, material that should be kept and then could be useful beyond a particular institution, they now provide intervention fund to institution to transmute these manuscripts into textbooks. The AMB intervention is that intervention that is set aside to encourage our lecturers to transmute their manuscript into books. Like I mentioned, the handouts of yesteryears, whereby we struggle to prepare for exam. With the intervention of TETFund now, those manuscripts could be transmuted into textbooks, and there is an intervention fund for it to each of the tertiary institutions to encourage and promote lecturers that have all these manuscripts that have been adjudged and that have been evaluated to be worthy of being transmitted into textbooks. So instead of students striving to get handout, they could have this textbook, and even those textbooks could be sent to other tertiary institutions.
No doubt, education support services is essential, but what critical role does it play in boosting Nigeria's R&D, and how does that role go from business as usual to a paradigm shift?
Talking about the paradigm shift, the Executive Secretary, Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, in his first and second coming, the reincarnation or reinstatement as it may be, brought in the revolution that, look, we should focus more on the faculty rather than the infrastructure. And when we are referring to the faculty, we are referring to the content-based intervention. And that's the paradigm shift that we are talking about, because prior to that period, the intervention of the fund is basically on physical infrastructures in tertiary institutions. in terms of building lecture theaters, in terms of building classrooms, in terms of building even Senate building for institution, administrative building for institution. But with the paradigm shift, we focus more on research and development. That one is being taken over being handled by the Research and Development Center of Excellence. We have development of capacity of the lecturers in institution. There's another department within the content-based department, AST and Academic Staff Development and Training, taking care of ensuring that lecturers in our tertiary institutions are being trained for that, to have their master's degree, PhD degree, both at local and international level. And coming to education support services, we have library development, as I mentioned. We need the books, both printed and the digital. And intervention fund has been set aside that look to ensure that all those things that need to improve the capacity and the actual faculty of the institution are being given. Then additionally, we have the AMB, Academic Manuscript Book. And majorly in 2019, we have the Technical Advisory Group. It's a very great initiative. When I say Technical Advisory Group, we have a committee, an array of university distinguished professors of over 80 in numbers, under the chairmanship of the distinguished Professor Charles Ogagua Awo, a professor of food and food technology at University of Ibadan, being the chairman. Under this technical advisory group, the focus is just to ensure that the faculty is being developed to the expected global standard. And what do they do there? Under the technical advisory group, we have 3 subcommittees, and the 3 subcommittees complement each other. The first subcommittee is the book publication subcommittee. They are ensuring that academics books are being developed in tertiary institutions. And how do they warehouse all these academics books? Manuscript from all tertiary institutions or any worthy manuscript is being submitted to this array of professors. They will look at it, they will evaluate it, whether it's worthy. If there are corrections to be done there, they will carry it out. They will ensure that how it's been set out to ensure that it's of world class, instead of procuring books from outside the country. The essence of this intervention is to ensure that they promote indigenous authorship of textbook. The textbook that are the authors are our own people within the country, and those books are published within the country. It's not that you go to India or UK to go and publish your book. That's one of the subcommittee. The second subcommittee is what we call professional association journals. These are journals of professionals in various fields. It could be professional journals of accountants, it could be that of curricular association, it could be that of technological association. All these journals are being warehoused, and they are submitted to the technical advisory group for needed for it to be edited. And why do they do this? It's just to ensure the feasibility of our journal in the web. You know, the feasibility of the journal will lead to the impact factor, and that one go ahead to ensure that our journal publication are being recognized in the world map, and that one goes a long way when they are ranking our institution. And the third subcommittee is what we call academic publishing centers. Like I mentioned to you, it complements each other. When the people in the publication sector finish their job, instead of taking it outside the country for publication, we have the APCs, the Academic Publishing Center. As I'm talking to you, we have 7 APCs in Nigeria, each in each of the geopolitical zone, and the 7th one in Abuja. And all this academic publishing center, apart from the physical structure, all the pin trees and every needed gadget to ensure that items are printed at the level of world standard, those APC will be equipped to carry out all those responsibilities.
Having a team of eminent experts, such as the Technical Advisory Group, paves the way for continuous enhancement of education support services. By constantly monitoring changing trends, reviewing the progress made in ongoing reforms, analyzing the implementation of previous interventions, and innovating for the future, the group makes recommendations on actions required to achieve success. Sukomi reveals the impact this approach has had on content.
The current situation now worldwide, whereby we are looking at all things virtually. We have the e-library now, that is the digital library, the virtual library, and it's now part of the intervention that our tertiary institution should make it part of their library component, that is the digital library. So you don't need to carry a particular textbook to say that you can just go to the digital section of the library, call for whatever books that you want to read, and you are good to go. And in doing this, the fund is ensuring that all the complementary equipment that is needed, like all the desktop, the web connection, and all these provisions are being made, even through the ICT support.
TETFund interventions under the Executive Secretary's focus on R&D seeks to change the narrative that the best way to hide anything from a Nigerian is in a book. The library interventions are designed to make libraries more useful and exciting than ever before. The paradigm shift is rising to the challenge and re-envisioning public libraries.
The manuscript development, the support cut across all fields. Either science, technology, engineering, mathematics, arts, humanities. And as it cut across the fields of knowledge, it cut across the institution, either in the university, polytechnic, and colleges of education. So our lecturers, as they are in the institution, depending on the field in which you specialize, is then that, okay, if you specialize in probably biological sciences now, you can choose to write a manuscript on that field. But beyond that, there will be peer review, because it's not that probably I'm from Maiduguri or University of Usman Danfodio University and I'm writing a manuscript. It's the evaluation of that manuscrict will not be just within my institution. There will be a peer review that cut across all other institutions to ensure that that manuscript is worth the while before it's been sponsored by the fund.
TETFund provides support for converting academic manuscripts into books. The intervention aims to resuscitate and encourage authorship of indigenous books among lecturers of public tertiary institutions. It inculcates and nurtures the culture of authorship. Manuscript development is a crucial way that Nigerian tertiary education can continue to evolve a curriculum that is best suited to the nation's unique industrial and economic needs. The head of Education Support Services gives an insight into the significance of the paradigm shift.
It's not that the fund is exiting entirely from the physical infrastructure intervention, but rather as much as we are focusing on the content base, we are still taking care of the infrastructure. Let me just draw an analogy. It's like a moving vehicle. Everyone will be seeing the vehicle, but meanwhile, the engineering is what is actually running the vehicle. The content, I will liken it to the engine. And the physical structure you are talking about, I will liken it to the body of the car that you are seeing. If our faculty are not well established, the people giving the content to the students, when you are leaving the institution, you are not living with the building, but what has been imparted. Who will impart and what is going to be imparted boils down on the faculty itself. That is the human resources, instructional resources, either the e-book or the hard book that you have gone through, or the virtual opportunity that is available to you to Google and get the needed instruction and material that is needed. So I would say that it's very important as a nation that is moving towards development that we focus more, and as we are doing, more on the content at this time, in fact, considering the current situation of the occasion by this COVID-19, where everybody is now learning online, that you don't even need to be in a particular institution before you get the knowledge that is needed. I think going towards the content base is very, very apt and important.
Education support has come a long way, but an exciting future lies ahead. A great deal now rests on ensuring that TETFund's efforts contribute in a meaningful way to bring a revolution in Nigeria's economic fortunes through the stakeholders of our knowledge economy.
If you look at the vision of the fund, we aspire to be world-class, to meet the standard in which every other nation of the world are. And if you look at all these nations, they depend more on the content than even the physical infrastructure. So what I'm saying is that if we focus on these in addressing the faculty in the next 10, 15 years, I'm so sure if every other factor remains equal, the society is cooperating, the academics are cooperating, and the industry cooperating, I believe within that period we'll be at the level of where the Koreans, the Chinese are, and even the Americans are by that period.
At this critical point of Nigeria's history, TETFund is seizing the opportunity by bringing the government, academia, and industry together using the triple helix model to create and achieve a comprehensive, coordinated vision. This vision is to revitalize the objectives of addressing the critical need of high-quality manpower to drive the nation's economy and development aspirations. That is the paradigm shift.